Okay, we are on. We are in fact on. And man. Hello everybody. Nice to see you. Folks hopping on. Alijah, you're gonna be here for about a half hour, right?
Yeah, yep. And then going to be doing the red blue community dialogues. So with Laurie, so that'll be cool.
Okay, awesome, man. Man, couple things. Anyway, Jenny put in the chat that Charlie Kirk got shot, and Charlie Kirk, if you don't know, is this guy, young guy who started this Turning Point USA. We've been in their we've been in their crosshairs. Social 19 has a few times.
And what do you mean, like in their videos?
Yeah. Generally, yeah, or Jennifer Young. Yeah, we'll answer some questions from the live stream from yesterday. I think Jeff, right? And yeah, mostly talk a little bit about class from yesterday, just more of an kind of an open conversation, and then some other things that are happening in the news that I feel like I want to comment on.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get to, I think after Alijah has to leave, we're going to start to transition and talk about class yesterday. There's a bunch of questions people asked on the live stream, and then I pulled, I think actually almost every comment that has gone onto the videos so far. So we'll definitely get to that towards the second half of the live stream.
Yeah, it's cool. It was a very interesting class. For me, just to hear, I have no idea what the news is about this Charlie Kirk, but he's a guy that got really involved in, had at some point, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, got really involved in kind of responding to the perception that universities have moved far to the left. Too far to the left, and so a lot of folks out there I think he really mostly was responding to universities. I think this turning point, but maybe it just wasn't universities. But in any case, just trying to a provocateur of sorts, and I say that because putting a lot of videos up and responding to the videos in a way that would elicit a certain kind of response. And certainly, we've had quite a number of our videos highlighted by some of these groups and people like him. Yeah, Michael. Yeah, the perception that. Well, I say that because I'm a victim of some of this, and I don't think I've gone too far to the left at all. But what they do is they pick out, in Turning Point, his group has done this with me. They pick out one small clip, like you can find from yesterday's class. Alijah, you can pick out some clip of class of me saying something, and I was saying all sorts of things from so many different perspectives. Really, perspectives that would be considered really far left, and then far right, and really conservative, and really liberal. And well, you could just take one of those and be like, all right, well, here's what this sociologist thinks, and what you're missing are all the other things. And so his group has done that to us with our videos. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that kind of thing, right? Because it's really problematic for me,
Right. Right. Because like taking just one moment, and then creating a narrative around that one single moment, rather than there's so much more context, but just using it to support whatever position or like agenda he's trying to push forward.
Yeah. So it's, yesterday, when someone, the 3 students who were, sitting on the, and they were in the front of the room, our 3 student volunteers. They were all pretty extremely supportive of welfare for people with lesser means. I'll put it that way. The one guy was just like, hey, if anyone can't live a decent life, a normal life, like what would be considered a life that allows them allows for upward mobility, then they deserve welfare. And I'm like, wait, hang on. What do you mean by that? What do we mean? Like that, and that, didn't bring into the conversation a question about, well, are they trying? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Like, what role do they have? And what, so they were all really, really supportive, and in the way that 18 and 20-year-olds often are. We have a problem in the world. Let's spend money to fix it, right? People are suffering in some way. Let's fix it. We don't want them to suffer. Whatever we have to do, let's just do it. We have enough money, and let's make it happen. So,
right.
So
that was the mindset.
Yeah, which is okay. I mean, that's fine. Clearly, I'd rather have people say. I mean, personally speaking, for me, I'd rather have a human being say that than say, whatever. If you can't make it in this world, then F you. Like, we're gonna just let you out to die. I don't know, whatever. I mean, that's an extreme case in the other direction. It's like you're on your own, and if you can't make it, if it means that you die, you starve to death or whatever, that's it. That's what it is. So you got one extreme in one way and one extreme on the other. Well, the compassion, it's kind of nice to see a little bit of compassion, but nonetheless. But what that meant is that I was going to step in to say, well, hang on a second, man. Because the compassion also is like, wait a minute. Do you really understand what you're saying? Like, think through what you're saying here. Right. But so you could take one or the other and just run forward. That's what I'm thinking, right? And then somebody in class who's like, "Whoa, hang on a second. If you can't do it, like, I mean, I don't know. Then I got to take another side of like, well, hang on. People have real issues. For example, it's kind of interesting. I was thinking after class about, when we kind of talked about this, but someone said it in class, one of the students, but I was thinking, well, right now in Florida, actually all up the East Coast, but in particular in Florida, insurance companies are pulling out of the state of Florida. They are just not going to insure homes that are in these hurricane-prone areas. They're just like, look, we can't do that. We're not insuring, or we're going to insure it, but it's going to cost you so much money for this. This $300,000 home, it's going to cost you $20,000 a year or something like that. So we can't. Yeah, we're just whatever. We're a private company and we're pulling out. So you're on your own. Good luck. And then so people, the homeowners, are naturally, they turn to the state of Florida and to the federal government and like, look, you have to insure us. And then you say, wait, hang on a second. Why do we have to insure you? Who has to insure you? The taxpayers? If the private industry is pulling out because it's fiscally irresponsible, then why should government step in? Because it's going to be fiscally irresponsible for them also. Right? This is the nature of free market capitalism. You let the capitalists decide where they want to invest their money. And if they're saying like, I'm not investing here, I'm going to lose money. Well, that means the government is going to lose money also. So then we say, well, yeah, but these are people's homes. I mean, come on, man, these are whole communities. Like, we can't not do that. But then I say, well, hang on, let's go back 10 years or 15 years. We've been telling people, hey, it's global climate change. The hurricanes are getting worse. Weather patterns are getting more unpredictable. Insurance companies are threatening. They're already saying. They started saying this 15, 20 years ago. Like, it's not going to make. It's going to be fiscally irresponsible for us to continue to operate in some of these states, like California with the wildfires, and up along the East Coast and in Florida.
So does that mean that people, like, if you're saying that people, we've been for 15 years, this information has been, given. So what do we just expect them to like up and leave?
Yeah, and then we'll know this, but this is the thing, right? But people keep buying houses on the coast because people want to live by the water, man. Like, my God, Lori and I, for the past 15 years or so, we've said, man, wouldn't it be really nice to have a place on the water in the United States? And we're like, yeah, but where? Up in Maine, maybe, but I don't want to be up in Maine on the water. It's like, I want to be down in Florida, in the South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Florida, wherever. So, but like, yeah, we're not doing that. That's a really bad investment, So our minds are going like, yeah, that's a bad investment. So if you're making a bad investment, we've been telling you this is a really bad idea, but you decided to put this big addition on your home on the West Coast or East Coast or West Coast, whatever, southern tip of Florida that costs you a lot of money. And now you want to insure it and you can't insure it. And now you're turning to the government and saying like, hey, you should insure this for us. We deserve this. Right? It's like, well, hang on a minute. That's welfare, basically, now at this point in time, because the private industry is saying we're not doing it. So now it becomes some kind of welfare because the taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill. When this massive, 5-point level 5 hurricane blows through and causes, $2 billion worth of damages, then we're going to foot the bill for that. It's like that. That makes no sense. So anyway, that's welfare.
Well, right? Has historically, like, who's responsible for those types of things? Like, using the hurricanes as an example, like, has that changed historically? Like, who is responsible for ensuring? Because, like, inherently, like, people have to live somewhere, and people like live in all the states, and so.
Here's the thing.
It's like the nature of, I guess, living somewhere of that spot. So, wouldn't it be like? So that's why it makes me wonder, because I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be the government, or like inherently who's responsible for that then? And historically, has it changed? And like, who's responsible?
Well, I don't know, actually, right?
Yeah.
In the world in which we're living, we've kind of leaned toward, and we're increasingly leaning toward, each individuals are responsible for their own fates. It becomes there are less and less touch points, or we structure the system less so that we are collectively responsible for everybody. I mean, not entirely, but there are just different ways in which we make individuals more responsible, like this case with insurance, right? And Ian, by the way, if you live in the center of the state, there are very few issues with insurance, but the insurance companies are pulling out of the coasts. And they're basically shutting it. State Farm is just basically kind of saying, okay, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. I think as of next year, something like that. I don't know which one. But so anyway, that's Florida, right? And for me, I've been thinking about climate change and believing in it like for quite a while. So that means I'm not going to be in some hurricane prone area. I'm not going to do that where flooding is more likely and that kind of thing. Right.
But then like the people that like can't control it, that just have like the new Netflix series, like Hurricane Katrina, called Katrina on Netflix. It's a documentary on like the epidemic, and it showed, those that literally have no resources. And
that's right.
And they were just at the football stadium, just the New Orleans Saints, I think, stadium, and just being packed in, and those that were like on the outer side, or where it was like almost like a bowl because of their, and those that were in the certain areas, it was just completely flooded. They had no way to get out. And it's like, they're just stuck on the highways, sitting or trying to find a way to get to the shelters or the Saints. And it's like, man, what about those people that just have no?
Okay, so it's a little bit different story, because that was Hurricane Katrina was a kind of a unique situation. It was wait, was that Katrina with New Orleans? Yeah, but because that was
so.
That was like a series of the worst case scenarios all coming together, and the Army Corps of Engineers had said, "Listen, we built this flood system here, so it's going to hold." Well, it didn't hold, and so that meant things really fell apart. And but in Florida, but now, okay, so if you rebuild but now you got to decide, okay, what am I going to do, right? Am I going to rebuild in New Orleans? And the federal government comes in and we say, okay, we're going to build a new flood system again. Well, that's taxpayers paying for that, So like, wait, hang on a second. Is this going to happen again? And if it happens again, are we going to be responsible for that and rebuilding? Like, what is that? Right? What responsibility do we have? So New Orleans is a little bit different than, Florida, where we know, like, okay, this is definitely going to happen, right? And so, I read this story.
Okay. Right.
I read this story of these folks who, they were deciding whether to buy this house. They were on the East Coast, kind of in the north of Naples, between Naples and Tampa. And people were telling him, listen, man, it's a pretty bad idea, right? They were moving down from the north. And it's like, you're right on the water. This is not good. But they didn't believe in climate change. You know what I mean? Listen, people have been there for 100 years, whatever. It's fine. And but the last hurricane that blew through the east coast of Florida just wiped them out. And they didn't believe in climate change. So they just were like, okay, this isn't it. Now, I'm not saying that it's only because of climate change. Although the weather folks are going like, yeah, that really the changes in the climate made that particular hurricane much worse. And we're going to get more, and we're going to get more, and we're going to get more, and they're going to be stronger and stronger. Okay. Right. So that's there. But then you got insurance companies pulling out of California. And that's because of wildfires. And the wildfire is getting worse because of the droughts that all of the weather folks are saying, like, yeah, it's all connected to changing climate too, right? So now the insurance companies pull out of California, and now the pressure is on the state of California to insure all of these homes. And it's like, wait, hang on a second. But you built in an area where wildfires happen. And you did what you needed to do to protect against wildfires, but it's getting worse. And the climate, the conditions are getting worse, meaning the fires are going to get bigger and rage more. Wait, why am I, the taxpayer, responsible for that? That's welfare, right? Like, why am I responsible for you making what appears to be a really bad decision? Just like in Florida, if you're going to build right on the water, that's a bad decision. So why am I responsible for that? Anymore and so the question for me becomes, it's interesting that when I put welfare up on the screen in class, nobody went there to that kind of welfare. What they went to immediately was, with the money that we spend helping the poor. And right. And so for me, that just it's really fascinating. How is it that that as a nation we shape the conversation in that way, the public conversation, that welfare is about the people who we can more easily say, hey, you should be able to fix yourself. Like, you've done something bad. You either started drinking, or you started using fentanyl, or you started doing something. Whatever you've done, you weren't good with your money. You started gambling, and you gambled all your money away, and now you're homeless, or whatever it is, right? You didn't take your medication, and now your mental health is out of control. However, I don't know, right? You didn't save enough money, so when you lost your job, you weren't able to sustain yourself to the point that you found a new job. But whatever it is that we can more easily find blame to place on people. And they're so how is it that those are the folks we turn to, but we don't turn to, like the big banks, like the student in class talked about the 2008 financial crisis, the billions of dollars that we used to bail out. And I'm not talking about bail out the small money people. And mind you, the 2008 bailout, we were just like listening for a hot minute. Back then I was like in 2009, I really dug into that financial crisis, and I was trying to really listen to what was going on and understand what was going on. And some really smart people were like, man, we literally were hours away from a collapse of the entire economic system that would have just gone global so fast. So it's not like, yeah, the bailout was inherently problematic, the big bailout. But then what happened was we started bailing out all these rich people, and they got their money back. And other people who weren't the 1/2 of 1%, they didn't get their money back, and they lost everything. So, anyway, that's welfare. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you're just relating like the bailout essentially is what you're focusing on, like that welfare. Yeah. Okay.
But just you, Elijah, I say like, hey, tell me something about welfare. Does your mind go to big banks, to corporations, to agribusiness?
No.
Does it go to agribusiness?
It doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't. No.
Yeah.
It goes straight to
the automobile companies. Does it go, whatever? Doesn't go there.
Nope. It really doesn't. It goes straight to
because you've been educated by a system that has taught you to not carefully consider and critique positions of power. And that's just what it is, right? Like we don't. Yeah, you've been taught that. Otherwise, you'd be, if this was truly a true leftist educational system, from early on, you'd be taught to question all this power. It's like, wait, hang on a second, man. Welfare. Wait, didn't you spell that wrong? You spelled it WELFARE. It should be WEALTHFARE. It's welfare.
Welfare. Yeah.
So wait, Ian said, I would say the difference between federal funds for disaster relief and welfare is that disaster relief is about economic stability. Yeah, I would say that too, Ian. It also is about there is you kind of said it yesterday in a way, right? It's like, look, man, these are whole communities. You can't just like communities just fall apart, man. Like what's going to happen? Let's say, okay, everybody leaves New Orleans after Katrina. It's like, well, a lot of people did leave. Lots of folks went all sorts of directions, and then many came back, but many didn't. And so like, all right, so here we go. Let's just let things just completely fall apart,
So it's like so his point is if we don't support, then there can just be total economic failure.
Yeah, you have failed. You have things fall apart.
Right.
Things fall apart, and you can't have that. I mean, well, you can, but at some point in time we say that, but all these communities, that have built up and built these big, massive houses on the coast, like in central Jersey, where I remember, after the hurricane, in New Jersey back, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, man, driving through and seeing these, $2-3 million homes just leaning on their sides, just one after another. It's like, wow. It's just,
leaning on their sides.
Yeah. They were all up on stilts, and then they just fell over. Some of them just floated away. But
wow,
yeah, just terrible, man, and just collapse. It's like, so these community, you just let communities die away. But the fact is, according to these clients, not the fact, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I know. Jennifer Young, I'm going to respond to that in a second. That's a good question. I think the thing is that I don't know if I can't say it's factual. I personally, from what I assess about the climate, yeah, it's changing, and human beings have played a role in that, and we're not going to bring it back. But the insurance companies all believe in climate science, so they're all they're all making decisions according with the idea that the climate scientists are correct. The weather is increasingly unstable, and wherever it is that we're operating, we need to be thinking about what that is, because that's going to have a it's going to have a major impact on our entire industry. So they think that.
What does that mean? Like, how does that change insurance? Because I guess my assumption is like, I feel like insurance should be, like equal opportunity. Like people should have access to insurance, but like if people are pulling out, because it's not a good business decision.
Well, why do you have access? Why should they have access to insurance, right? Like here, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Let's say that you have health insurance, right? And you get a liver transplant. You need a liver transplant because you drink. Right. And you've got cirrhosis of the liver, and you're just like, yeah, man, you're going to die. And we give you a liver transplant. Like, okay, all right, that's good. And, but now it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to insure you, right? Nobody wants to insure you. They want to drop you. First off, the moment you need a liver transplant, they want to drop you because it's a for-profit industry. Like, I don't want to insure you. I don't want to pay for your transplant. Okay. But, let's say you have to, right? Well, sometimes they find ways to drop you, but because that's just the nature of that. But let's say we don't.
This is so bad.
Yeah. Well, hang on. Yeah. Yeah, it is. But listen, that's why we have things in place. That's why we have regulations in place. So when people say, hey, we need less regulation, well, hang on. One regulation that exists out there is to force insurance companies to have to pay for the healthcare needs of the people they are insuring. So when they turn around and say, oh, we don't care that 15 doctors say you need a liver transplant, we're not paying for it. Like, because we don't think you do, because our bean counters decided you don't. Okay. But let's say that you do, right?
Yeah.
And then they say, like, okay, we pay. And then we say, hey, listen, Alijah, here's the problem, man. So you got this, you're going to get this liver transplant, but here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop drinking because we're not giving another one to you. Okay. That's how it is. And the insurance companies, they're going like, yep, that's not. So there's no right. You don't get do you have a right to
insurance company to say that? Oh, do you have a right to have two?
To two transplants? So let's say you keep drinking. And it's like, yeah, you need another one now. And you and your family are going like, but he should have another liver transplant. And I'm going like, wait a minute, man. I don't care. Go to AA. Like, what the fuck? What do you got to do? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, this is where there's, the companies aren't. It's not all of, or if they say, listen, man, you're in this particular area in California that's prone to wildfires. We've done everything we can do to ensure that we protect your home. Okay. We've built these barriers around, you built your house in such a way. So like, okay, we're going to continue to insure you, but we can't guarantee that we're going to continue because we might just pull out, of your county or the entire state. And then you say, well, yeah, but I want to build this addition onto my home. And the addition's, $500,000. Let's say it's one of these big houses out in California. And we're like, and the insurance company says, yeah, well, that's not a very good idea. And you're like, yeah, but I want it, and I trust that everything will be fine. And then they decide, you know what, this is too costly. We can't insure you anymore. It's too much for us, man. If this fire comes in, we're not going to insure you. Why? Do you have a right to that insurance? What gives you the right to get insurance?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a little bit different personally, if you have the money to leave and it's that dangerous, like if you have the opportunities available to you, or like the resources available to you.
Yeah, like David Crosby. I think someone Wicked Psyched said he had more than one liver. I think he did, but he had money to pay for it, so it's all right.
Right,
I mean,
but
you know what I mean? This is the thing, right? So if the
Mhm.
insurance company just comes, look, our insurance company flew a drone over our house last year. And they said, hey, you got those steps in the back and you don't have a railing on your steps. There were 3 steps going down. We didn't have a railing, right? Cement steps. And they're like, you got to get a railing or we're not going to insure you. And we're like, well, really? We've never had a railing, and it's 3 steps. And it's like, okay, all right. We can, well, we're going to do some landscaping. So when we do the landscaping, we're going to put new steps in and then we'll put the railing in. Then we get a notice saying like, hey, you need to get that railing. And we're like, we were back and we're like, yeah, we're going to get the railing. Don't worry about it. We're doing the landscaping. It got held off a little bit, but trust us, we want a railing there. We're getting older and we want a railing. It's not just you, right? And then we get a letter saying, okay, you're no longer insured. You don't have the railing. We're like, wait, the fuck? Wait, what? Like, come on, man. We're starting the work next week. Literally, it was like 1 week out. It's starting. We're going to get the railing in, so then we were able to manage to make it happen again, right? But I'm like, well, they had a right to do that. We've been with State Farm. We have been with State Farm for 25 years. It's like, but whatever. You guys said we need a railing. You were going to. I'm like, you're really not going to insure us because we don't have a railing there. That's pretty stupid, really. Because it's 3 steps, it's not a big deal. But like whatever. That's your prerogative.
Wow.
What am I? I'm going to fight that.
So it's like they incentivize prevention for like their buyers, and if they don't, and if they're not, doing like preventative maintenance, like on their homes or whatever, then they won't.
That is correct. And so their bean counters decided, hey, even though that's a really tiny thing. They decided it wasn't that tiny and we're not going to insure these people. We don't need them. We don't need to insure them. It's not worth the risk. They calculated risk and reward. So, okay, well, that's where we're at here. And that's, but that's a private exchange there. We weren't going to turn to the government to say, hey, State Farm won't insurance. So like, you don't need to insure us, like someone needs to insure us. Oh my God, dude, we're victims here. Like someone should insure us, right? It's like, It's like,
what do we value? I guess, what do we value as a society, or not? Like, not that we don't value people having insurance, but like not value. That's like partially the questions. Like, do we value the well-being of others in society, or like how people are getting that well-being? Like that's the controversy. Is like how people are receiving well-being, not exactly if people value well-being inherently, because sometimes it feels like that. Just like there could be headlines like insurance companies don't value well-being, or like if that was like a clickbait like headline,
That's right. Yeah,
that's right.
Or listen, that's why it's important to hold both views that are critical, the views on the left that tend to be more critical of the state and power and so on. Well, views on the right are also critical of the state and power. It's all relative, right? So that's why it's important to have many different perspectives on things,
right?
Because you really see that. But the bottom line is, when my students yesterday were using words like deserve, right, or should, or it's like, wait. Someone asked me, what did they ask me? Wait, was it it was just 2 days ago. We had office hours. Is healthcare a human right? And I'm like, no, it's not a human right. I mean, first off, what do you mean by healthcare? And secondly, what are we talking about? Like there are gradations of healthcare. What do we mean? It's like it's too complicated. A single human being could, just to address a single issue, like right now my allergies are acting up, and I could spend tens of thousands of dollars to try to get to the bottom of what's going on with my allergies. Or I could just take some bee pollen and get some tissues and deal with it. Do I deserve to spend tens of thousands of dollars? You know, like, no, I don't. No, I don't. You know, so, but that's where, you know, you have to get, I don't know, it's these complexities.
It's so complicated, man.
Yeah. And I like what Michael said about saying that the reason most transplants don't happen. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of reasons for all of these things. These things are incredibly complicated, but yeah, I don't like when I have these conversations, I never am trying to simplify things. These things are always far more complex. You know, like transplants are far more complex than the examples that I get. These are just two very simple, simplistic examples. But I'm using it to make a point about something else and about what people do and don't deserve. So, you know, it's just, I just have a sort of a knee-jerk reaction anytime I hear anybody say I deserve, right? And me, in part, that comes from being a teacher, because every student in my class, trust me, deserves an A. They work hard enough to get an A. And even if they don't get the right grades, the vast majority of them think that they worked hard enough to get an A. Regardless of what I might think or anybody in this chat watching this might think, the vast majority of them think that they worked hard enough to get an A and therefore deserve an A. But I studied so hard for the exam and I only got a B. I'm like, well, but you didn't get an A though. But I deserve it because I studied so hard. I mean, that is so common in my world that I have such a knee-jerk reaction against that word deserve, and I never used it in I do not use that word. I don't use it toward myself, and I've never used it in my work environment. I could give dozens and dozens of examples where my life or Lori's life we could have gotten ahead if just even in our minds said, hey, we deserve this. But we didn't. I didn't. I don't operate that way. I have it right now all the time. I just never think I deserve anything.
Sorry to interrupt, but Alijah has to get going here. Before he does go, I wanted to share, I'm putting up a graphic now of the Katrina documentary on Netflix. It's called Katrina From Hell and High Water. It's currently available on Netflix if you guys are interested in watching it. Alijah, did you say you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it. I don't think I finished it all the way yet. There's a few episodes, like a limited series you can check out, but it's pretty informative. It's cool.
Yeah. I wanted to share that with everybody.
Yeah, that was really intense, man. All right,
I guess.
All right, Alijah, listen, man.
Yeah, I'm just from my perspective, it's like, man, the common, like, what about helping like the common man? I guess is like where I think, but like my instinct is, and it's different when like profit comes into play and like you're looking at things on a macro scale versus a micro scale, you know. But because it just makes me think back to like, like while you were literally in Colombia, you saw the dude with his Venezuelan son, his friend, just go over there, like, let's helping the common man, that like just that natural intention. But I guess there's so much more at play.
Yeah,
just that. But but that's just what I was thinking. I was thinking that I was like, I wish I could keep going. But,
yeah, that's good, man. No, that's good. Cool. I got you. Yeah. Thanks,
but
man.
I know I have a certain position at the moment.
All right, bro. Listen, man, have a good one.
Yeah, have a good one,
conversation later.
Yeah. I'll be tracking the data. Peace.
All right, man. Elijah's going with my wife, who's right outside my door, to have a conversation tonight. Having a dialogue. So it's part of World in Conversation. Anyway, this the chart. Okay, let me say something about this Charlie Kirk. It's very unsettling to me at every level that such violence happens. It happens to people. It doesn't matter what your politics are or what you think. Like what, I don't know what happened. Who shot him? It could be someone who's, I don't know. I have no idea. But it's deeply unsettling to me that this is, I don't even want to think about it. But without knowing any details, and I don't have to know any details because I'm going to assume that it's not a spurned lover or something like that.
I do have. It is. I'll give you this. They've arrested the suspect, the potential shooter. By the way, I wouldn't recommend going on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or anywhere really that doesn't highly censor content, because if you go on Twitter right now, there's a chance that your feed's going to have some very graphic videos, because a lot of people had their phones out filming Charlie at his event, and there's a lot of people who have the video. It's very disturbing. It's very, very troubling.
Yeah, the whole thing is troubling, man. It's just like anyway, for me it's troubling because it's like, this is it. This is how we're gonna now result. We're just gonna spiral down into this and start killing each other because we don't like our views and our thoughts about things. Like, this is where we're gonna go, right? And then we're gonna just keep ramping up the rhetoric so that more and more people feel like, hey, this is what we need to do in order to make the change that we want to see in the world. I'm not feeling that at all. And it's very, very effing unsettling. Well, you certainly, listen, somebody like him, he really ramps up rhetoric, man. And there are those people who are that's what they're professionals at doing. And okay, so these are things that happen, but other people can be perceived to be ramping up rhetoric, and they're not. So it's not that difficult to look at somebody like me and be like, oh, this guy really is ramping up the rhetoric. And I'm not ramping up any rhetoric, man. I'm like toning it down as best I absolutely possibly can. But for me, just shit, man. Don't go down this path. We don't want to go down this path. This is really scary and really frightening, and kind of it's not going to take us anywhere that any of us want to go. So, yeah,
our hearts, thoughts, prayers, all of that to Charlie and his wife and his family, because I think he has 2, maybe even 3 kids or something. I do know that he's a father, so it's a horrible situation. And Ian said I'm not a big fan of Charlie Kirk, but I mean, even so, like, that, no one deserves that. Like, it's insane. Like, there's no words that we could really say to put this into perspective that anybody else. It's not, nonsense, baseless violence, just horrible.
Huh. Okay, well, anyway.
If we want to transition, we do have comments and questions from last class. We have the PowerPoint ready. Do you have it open?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And by the way, if it was Jenny Lee, if it was his Prove Me Wrong program, that's even better. like on a college campus, man. Like, prove me wrong. Come on, come up here and prove me wrong. But I mean, he's doing it with a lot of rhetoric and nonsense and stuff. But whatever. Nonetheless, it's like, okay, let's do that. Hey, Jeff, do you have a do we have a PowerPoint that I can pull up?
Yeah, it's on Slack. Me, and Elijah's message.
Oh yeah, okay. All right, hang on. I'll pull it up.
Yesterday you named class welfare. I changed on YouTube to a welfare state. I'm trying to think of something a little bit more clever.
All right. Yeah, okay. All right, man, I'm there. I got it. I see the first one here. It's Ian's, actually. For those in favor of where does it go too far? Yeah, that was actually, that was a good. That would have been a really good question. I didn't get any questions from the stream in class yesterday, bro.
No, we had plenty. I just didn't have time to get to them, or conversation didn't flow to them.
But yeah, where does it? Where and when does it go too far? That's really the question, because I don't know why I didn't ask that. Like, wait, how? I kind of did in a very indirect way, but not very directly. Like, wait, when is it too much? It's funny. Well, in truth, I think and this is what I'm always trying to encourage people to do. If you're watching the video, you got to go back and say to yourself, okay, what would I have said when I was 18 years old, 19, 20, 21, right? What would I have said then? Yeah. And, yeah. That's, yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you don't like welfare, what would you do instead? Yeah. What would you do? Because it's like I said, listen, man, I'm in DC and I'm stepping over all of these. I couldn't even go to the park. It was everywhere I went. There was so many people. And I'm like, I don't want this. Like, what do we have to do? Because what are we going to do? We could just put everybody in buses and send them where? Where are we going to send them? Out into the suburbs, out into the countryside, out in the middle of the woods somewhere. Like, what are we going to do, man? Like, so you got to do something. So, this is just a struggle that I have. It's like, well, first off, so much of it is mental illness. And I'm thinking about like the police, the work I've done with the police, and at the peak of the defund the police movement, I was doing a lot of work with the police, and the police were surprisingly saying like, all right, no problem, man, defund us. But what you need to do is you need to take that money and you need to pay for mental health services for people, so that we expand. If we're not going to expand the police and we're going to take this, move it toward mental health services. And what they said over and over again, this was consistent. Every police officer I've spoken with over the years was very clear that, look, more and more over the years, since the 1980s is when it really started, but that less and less, more mental health services they're being defunded at the federal, state, county, and local level. And therefore, the police are expected to pick up the slack for all of these folks. And in fact, I did this ride along with this one police officer. I was in the car maybe about like 4 hours. And we went out on 6 calls. And of the 6 calls, 5 of them were mental health calls. And 4 of them, he knew who the people were before we even arrived. So he's like, oh, this is so-and-so. Yeah. And so basically he was doing mental health services, but he was just doing this kind of crisis stuff. It was not going to fix the problem ever. That was not going to be possible. It was just like, hey, I get a call, I got to show up and I got to talk somebody down or whatever has to happen. There's an argument between these 2 people, but it's all mental health related. And so I got to just kind of separate them, be like, all right, are we good? And then I go away knowing that somebody's going to be back in the next few days, another police officer, right? So they were saying, sure, go ahead, defund us, but take the money that you take from us and put it toward mental health services, which of course is not going to happen because, we don't want to do that. And so then I think of like this, here, I think of this stabbing that happened in here. Hang on, I'm gonna. Hang on. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Jeff, I'm gonna pull a window up. Yeah. You see it? Yeah, it's ready. You can see it. And let me know when it's on. All right, hang on. So it's this story of this young woman from Ukraine in Charlotte who was stabbed by this guy who's mentally ill and has been mentally schizophrenic, diagnosed schizophrenic, and has been in and out of custody and for many years, 20 years or so, right? And he violently stabbed her, and the video is out, and many people have watched it of this guy attacking her. Brutal. I didn't watch it, but well, now that this, it's become this cause célèbre sort. And Trump, the White House had a session yesterday, had something, blaming the Democrats for this guy not being in jail, not being in prison, and it's just this guy should be in prison. Can you look at it? There we go. All right. There we go. Yeah. All right. So anyway, and he's a black guy, right? And so it's like, let's do this. Let's use this. Let's use this to attack our opponents, right? And let's use it to try to convince people that we need to bring the National Guard into all these cities because we're out of control and it's out of control. And the unfortunate thing here, when I read this article, I was thinking about all the police and my experience with the police, and the police saying, like, listen, man, we have a big problem, and our problem is with mental health. And the problem is the fact that we no longer are providing the mental health services, and people are falling through the cracks. And this guy's family has been trying to get mental health resources for him okay, Jeff, I took it off, for years. And he gets picked up, they put him in jail, but they can't hold him in jail because that's just the nature of it, right? And it's not about Democratic policies. These are this is Democratic and Republican policies, and it's our policies. And so we have people who are mentally ill and they're schizophrenic or whatever. You can't just put them behind bars and leave them there and throw the key away. I mean, they're going to get out until they do something extremely violent, and then they get put away for a long period of time. So we as a society have to ask ourselves, like, why is it that we don't want to invest in mental health services? Like, we don't want this. We don't want people with schizophrenia out in public. Like, nobody wants that, but we don't want to pay for it. And then we turn around and start pointing fingers and blaming other people for this, when in fact the problem is one of basic funding, that we're not going to take care of it. We are going to have mentally ill people. We will have schizophrenic people. Families without means are not going to be able to take care of their family members to get the kinds of services that they need. And even if they do have the means, you can't tie somebody down and force them to take their medication. This is part of a problem. It takes so much intervention in order to make that happen. And so then we have the case of this guy who, the reason he stabbed this woman so violently is because he thought she was reading his mind. And like, okay, so he had to kill her. This is deep mental illness. And so now what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to put him in prison forever. And like, okay, only after the fact. And so we have lots of other people out there who are dealing in the middle of mental health crises, and we don't deal with it. And what the police very directly told me again and again is we need to get help for these people. Because we can't do anything with them. All we do is we pick them up and we take them to the hospital and we drop them off. And they're there for an hour or two, and then they leave the hospital, and I see them later that day back out on the street. And this is no way to do policing, and it's no way to have a society. And it's quite troubling to know that, we're the ones, we, the police, are the ones that are going to have to be responsible for this. And then when we show up to deal with them, we don't know what kind of a state they're in, and we don't know if they have a weapon on them. And so we're on edge because, this is very dangerous for us. And too often somebody in this state of mind, they pull something out, they pull a weapon out, and then that's a problem. And so many police killings of people are people who have weapons and they're in some kind of state. And like, okay, well, what do we do, right? So for me, the really disappointing thing here in this particular case of Trump blaming the Democrats for this Charlotte stabbing is Trump could easily say, hey, listen, we have a problem here. This guy was mentally ill. He attacked this woman, and she came here from Ukraine as a refugee to escape the bombing, and like she's in the prime of her life. And he did this. And like this is because he's schizophrenic. And there are other people out there who are schizophrenic. Why don't we come up with a way to solve this? Because we don't want to live. Who wants to live in a world like this? Like who wants to be there? So he could easily say that. So why don't we all work together and we come up with the best possible, least expensive, but best possible solution that we can come up with to get help to people and get the medication to normalize their behavior, and they can be productive members of society again as best that they possibly can. He could say that, but he doesn't. And that to me is just like, fuck, man. Why do you have to do that? Why do you have to do that? So that's like, to me, it's just so annoying. Just come on, man. You either make it better or just be quiet, Yeah. It's not democratic policies, it's policies. And it's not, you can't, it doesn't matter. Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter. You cannot, nobody is taking people who are mentally ill and throwing them in jail and throwing the key away. We're not doing that. Eventually people are going to get out. So if this guy, his last crime, whatever it was, first off, it wasn't a crime that he committed. He abused 911. He made a phone call saying that somebody was like reading his mind or something like that, right? And so you can't put this guy in jail forever. You just can't. It's not going to happen. It's not about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It's not going to happen. And even if we have the most stringent policies, we're not putting mentally ill people in prison forever unless they do something that is extremely violent. It's not going to happen. Doesn't matter. So let's say we have, he abuses the 911 system. So we put him in jail for what? How long? A month? 2 months? A year? 5 years? Okay, at the end of 5 years, he's going to get out. He's not going to get any treatment in jail because we've stopped all of that. So it has nothing to do with Republicans and Democrats, man. And so, shit, we have to just stop that nonsense, man. It makes no sense. All right, bro, we can go back to the
questions. By the way, if you share your screen again, I'm prepared for it next time.
All right, okay.
The next one is from Kate.
Why would someone not be able to work to support themselves? One would be disabilities. So you got most people who are on welfare of some kind are children. The second main for adults anyway, the second issue is disability. And, it's primary. We have this idea that people are on welfare and they all are great and work and capable, and it's not. And some of those disabilities are physical and some of them are mental. And I can't, somebody's got schizophrenia, let's say, and you don't have a family to take care of you. It's like, well, this isn't just like, oh, I'm unhappy. I don't know, whatever, disability. I'm depressed. I suffer from depression. It's like, I don't know, whatever. It's like disabilities, man, including mental ones. It's like life is difficult. People go through lots of things, and most people on welfare, the data are pretty clear that people mostly go on public social or public assistance for short periods of time. Very few people are on it for the long haul. The vast majority of people on it in transition between, you got a divorce, you got a separation, you need some kind of transition to your next period of stability, or you hurt yourself, so you're not permanently disabled, but you're temporarily disabled and you got to go on it for a certain period of time. Or you just need help for a certain amount of time. You're transitioning from one job to another, and the job you got in between only pays half of what your old job meant or paid. So you just need a little bit of food stamps, let's say, just to hold you over, man. I need an extra $150 a week just to help cover these bills, and I need help with my heating for a year to cover that bill. These kinds of things. That's the vast majority of public assistance. It's not somebody who just can work easily. They're able-bodied and they can work, and it's not that those people don't exist. And it's not that people don't screw the system over. And it's not that people don't scam, because they absolutely do. But it takes a lot to scam the system. And to have the idea that we're going to throw everything out because some people are scamming, that's a problem. So you work to stop the scam from happening. People would, you get food stamps and, you trade your food stamps to somebody so that, or your, whatever it is, this was the old thing. You trade it to somebody for, money. You sell it to somebody, right? You get money. Well, then you can buy alcohol with it, and then they can take your that and go to the store and buy food with it, whatever. So then we decide, okay, well, we're going to have these cards, and it's cash assistance, but it's going to be on a card, and you got to take the card in, you got to show an ID, and you have to do this, you have to do that. So we make it more difficult to do, but nonetheless, those are the barriers to work. Yeah. And so all right, man. Next question. And by the way, do I sound like a liberal? I'm not. I'm trying to speak like a sociologist, right? I'm not trying to speak like, everybody should be on whatever it is, public assistance. I'm just trying to. If we don't understand what's really going on, we can't solve the problem. So it's like, shit. Look at what's really going on. It's just funny to me when I start reading about these things. I'm like, oh God, yeah. In our minds, we come up with the stories, but when you dig into it, even single mothers, right? It's like, okay. And then you think, wait, hang on a second, single mothers. Okay, I'm a man, I don't have kids. And one of the main reasons I don't have children is because I feel like I never felt like I could support kids. I didn't know if I had enough money to support them. I didn't know if I had what it took to support children. That's one of the reasons. Then, of course, I didn't really want the responsibility of children. But a big one was I didn't know if I really had what I needed to support children. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And so, all right. So, but I know lots of people who had kids, and then one parent walked out on the other one, and then they're left by themselves. So it's single fathers or single moms. And man, that's not easy. They didn't create that. They thought they had everything planned out and they're moving along a path, and then boom, it falls apart. And then someone's got to turn to the state. I just had a conversation with a former student of mine who lost everything in the California wildfires. But had a conversation, I mean, literally 2 hours ago, who visited me in my home. So literally 2 hours ago. And like, wow. And she was on public assistance of sorts. She said, if it hadn't been for FEMA and people who could help out, I wouldn't be here. Like we had no idea. Like we had never had a fire like this. Where she was, they never had fires like this. And when she said to people like, hey, we're going to be forced to evacuate, everyone looked at her and said, you're nuts. We never evacuated here. It's not going to happen. And then they were forced to evacuate. And she said if it hadn't been for the assistance that she got, she doesn't know what she would have done, Like, okay, well, there you go. There's assistance. That's taxpayer money. And so like, it's okay, Now, if the the people in like an area where they've had many wildfires over the years, they decide, hey, we're going to go back and rebuild. Well, first off, they're probably not, because they're not going to. The insurance companies, I'm sure, are already telling them, don't build there because you're not going to get any insurance. So whatever you build, it's on your own. So anyway, so single fathers aren't in the same category as single moms. Here you are blurring the lines again. I'm not sure. Well, yeah. Well, I don't know what you mean. Like, yeah, they're not in the same category. But the problem is, if I only say single moms, then single fathers are going to come up and say like, oh, wait, what about me? Like, what is that? And the trope is, the idea is single moms, and the idea is single mothers who, have children irresponsibly, right? Whereas like, that's why it's like, wait a minute, hang on a second. It's just not, it's the trope, as we say, right? It's the thing, the vision that's out there, the image that people have in their minds, but it's far more complicated than that. And, I think about my own mother, whose first husband was an alcoholic, and my mom had 3 kids under the age of 5 by the time she realized, I got to get this guy out of my life. And, she got some forms of assistance, but she also had parents to go to and live with her parents, my grandparents, and that kept a roof under her head. So, over her head, pardon me. So, I don't know. I don't, yeah. So I don't know, man. Yeah. The image is it's the man's fault. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying, yeah. No, yeah. I'm not blaming men, and I'm not blaming women, man. Like sometimes the women, it's not about that. It's just about, look, life is, to have children, it's really difficult, just first off, just to be a dog owner and knowing that and you're alone and you got to manage your dog, and everywhere you go, you go to work, you got to come home. You come home at lunch, you're going to walk the dog, you're going to come home after work. It's like, it's not easy, man. Life is incredibly difficult. So you got 2 people in this endeavor together, and then one person bails or whatever happens, or one person dies, or one person gets disabled. And then, okay, so what do we do, right? So there's no blame here. This is basic sociology of saying like, wait, how do systems form? And what do we need in order for a system? The issue for me is I want to stop crime. Like, I don't want crime, man. I don't want any crime. But the issue is how are we going to stop it? if you have people like this guy who committed this crime in the Carolinas, right, in Charlotte, who's schizophrenic, and he brutally kills this young woman. Okay, so how do we stop that from happening again, right? Like, what do we do, right? And so let's think this through exactly. What do we do? So we have the homeless people in Washington, in Washington D.C. and in Chicago, so many people, man, they're mentally ill, right? There's no question. I talked to a number of people. They were asking for money. One guy just clearly, he was not in any way mentally ill, and he smelled like beer, and he really just wanted beer money. Like, okay, great. And hang on, Paul, I'm going to respond to the AI question, actually. So I'm like, all right, dude, you want beer money. You're not mentally ill. But the other people were. Okay, so now what do we do? Well, we can't just take them off. What would be ideal would be to take them off the street, put them somewhere, put them in some kind of institution and figure out what's going on with them and get them medication. Eventually, we can say like, okay, most people are nonviolent and, it's not going to be a problem. But some people have a propensity for violence if they have some kind of schizophrenia. So then what do you do, right? We take the nonviolent, we pull them out the street and force them to take medication, figure out what that is. Okay. Put them in jail? Just put them in jail? What if the violence is they just like attack someone with their fists? Okay. How long do you put them in jail for? Right? For how long? Like a week, a month, a year, 5 years, 20 years? Because if they can attack someone with their fist, eventually they're going to attack someone with a weapon. All right. Probably, maybe not, but probably so. So like, okay, well then for how long? For life? Like what do you do? And so imagine it's your child. And so like, but then forget about being your child. Like, what do? You want to make a good society. We want anybody on the street who has mental illness. Like, it's not a good place to live. None of us want to cross paths with anybody. Lori and I were in a subway car in Chicago, and we were in the subway car with this guy and one other person at the other end of the car. And I'm watching this guy and I'm thinking, I don't know if he's okay. I think he's okay, but I don't know if he is. And the way I was sitting, I could see him, but Lori kind of had her back to this guy. And I'm just kind of watching him. I'm like, well, I don't know. But, I'm watching. I don't like that. I don't want that. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, dude, like, I don't even want to have that question in my mind. So let's say he is mentally ill. I don't want to deal with that. Nobody wants to deal with it. But what do we do? This is the problem. And so I'm trying to have a thoughtful, realistic conversation about, well, how do we do this as a society? Because it's going to cost a lot of money. Well, war costs a lot of money. A lot of things cost a lot. Welfare, bailing out banks and bailing out big business costs a lot of money. So what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? And we keep cutting taxes. And we say like, yeah, but I want to pay less in taxes. Great. You want to pay less in taxes, but that means you're going to have more problems out in the world that we as a society aren't responding to. So which is fine if that's how you want to live. Personally, for me, I would much rather pay a little bit more in taxes and not have some of these issues out there in the world. Like, yeah, put it toward mentally ill people, put it toward homeless people, put it to whatever, man. I'm driving on the street 2 days ago and there's a guy holding up a cardboard sign that says, I'm homeless and I'm hungry. Please help me. It's like, I don't want to see that guy. Like, I don't know how he got there. He's probably not mentally ill because the sign seemed to be written quite well. It's like, I don't want to see the guy. Like, I mean, I did see him. But I don't want to, I want to live in a world in which everything just operates well and we take care of these social problems and we address things. But the problem is, I don't know what that's going to cost. Like, okay, how much do I got to pay in my taxes to stop all this? And do I want to do that? Nah, I really don't want to do that. Okay, so I don't want to see this guy, but I don't want to see, what if there are five, one guy's okay, what if there's five of them? What if it's every street corner there's somebody, like in Southern California, every single street corner, it's like there's someone there asking for something. It's like, yeah, that's going too far. So like, I don't know where even I stand. And I don't know that if we spent how much money we would have to spend to resolve all these problems. I don't really know. But what I do know is the more we cut and the less we pay, the more we're going to see these problems out here in the world. I mean, that's what it is. So we're going to have to deal with it. And the more we don't address mental illness, the more people with mental illness are going to eventually, some of them are who have a propensity toward violence, and maybe they never did, but there's always that first time. Not always the first. No, those who are violent, there's always the first time, but most people aren't going to be violent. But some will be. And so then we got to decide how we're going to deal with it. And then, okay, so maybe we just live with it. So like I live with the fact that I drive down the street and there's a guy holding a sign there. I can roll my window down and give him money, or I can not. That's just how it is. That's my choice. But the fact, the idea that somehow, this is, should take all these people and they should be in prison. Is that you can't just throw people in prison, Yeah, in California, right? More and more homeless, but part of the reason in California is how do you know it's, Michael? How do you know it's mismanaged? Really, how do we know that? So, and more people are going to California, right? There's like a circuit, and more people sort of end up there because whatever, they end up in certain places. Like, I make the assumption it's mismanaged, right? But I don't know that. And I don't know. And what is really fascinating for me is that the more we take away the social safety nets, the more homeless people we see. And so the more homeless people, the more of a problem we have. And then we blame it on the government, who has less resources to spend on the safety net because of taxation and because we keep cutting taxes, including in the state of California. Like, the problem is you can only tax so far, and how many issues do you have? And so then it's an endless issue, man. It's a cycle. So yeah. What do you propose? What are we going to do? Yeah. There's 50,000 homeless people in the county of Los Angeles alone. So that's just the county of Los Angeles. So, and so the problem is this. So what do we do? Anyway, so Michael, like, you go corruption. Okay. I'm assuming a certain amount of corruption. I assume that, but I also assume that can we assume that when you take the safety net away, there's going to be more homeless? It's going to be more. That's the nature of it. People are going to lose what they have in order to get on. That's the nature of it, man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's mostly corruption. There's no way I'm going to say that until I do the research on precisely what is leading to the homelessness epidemic, and what it would really, in California anyway, and what it would really take. It's easy to sit back and say, yeah, there's corruption, and it's easy for any media team to just pick out some area where corruption is the cause of it and be like, yeah, it's corruption. But that's one story. It's just like it's easy to pick out one single video in my class and say, yeah, this guy, this is exactly how he thinks, and not show that, hang on, 10 minutes later, he said the exact opposite thing. So, no, I'm not going to say that. Yeah. No, a lot of the homeless people don't want help because they're mentally ill. so they're not going to get help. You give a guy a sandwich. We gave a guy the other day. We were in Chicago. Was it? We offered a sandwich to a guy. We were eating in a restaurant. The sandwich is still warm, actually. Has a half a sandwich. And the guy's like, yeah, no, I don't want that. And I'm like, dude, how do you not want this sandwich, man? You know what I mean? He would have taken money from us. I'm like, all right, well, we're not going to give you the sandwich then. But another guy took it. And maybe he wouldn't have taken money from it, actually. I actually don't think he would have. I think he was just mentally ill. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So there you go. Anyway, so Michael, I'm done with that, right? I can't go on. I think I can't be any more possibly thoughtful than I am, including knowing that, of course, there's corruption. It's a corruption, but it's also just bureaucracy. It's just people unable and unwilling to respond to certain things. Anyway, Arnica, I did see that this guy, Wilhelm, Finland has almost ended homelessness in the country. Listen, Korea has basically ended homelessness in Korea, in all of Seoul. So Seoul's a city of about 10 million people. There's the estimate of about 2,500 homeless people in Korea. So 2,500, man. And I mean, in Seoul, in this massive city of about 10 million people, there's 2,500 homeless people. And they think that this is a major issue. And when you walk around Seoul, you rarely ever see somebody who's homeless. You really have to go down to the train stations, and then you have to look. And so, what if the reason they've done that is because they pay taxes, they address the issues, they have mental health available for people. They really demand that people engage and receive mental health services. They don't want people on the street. They don't want to see people on the street. And they pay money to ensure that people are not on the street, and they address that. And so, it's a communitarian oriented society. It is a nation in which people feel a strong obligation toward others in that society and their people in the community. So that includes, you're not going to have a lot of homeless people. And so when people are paying their taxes, the taxes are also with the idea that, look, I may not benefit from these taxes directly. Other people are going to benefit. But what's going to happen is that I'm going to benefit in that I'm not going to have to deal with a lot of these social problems because we as a society are going to take care of them. And okay, that's very different than how we live. And so, we don't trust that our governments are going to take care of the problems. But they do. And the government mostly does a pretty damn good job of it, actually. So, and one of the reasons I really, really enjoy being in Seoul is because I love walking down the street and not having to deal with the kind of things that I see in cities here in the United States. It's kind of nice. You don't see drug addicts, you don't see drunks, you don't see trash, and you also don't see a lot of police, because you don't need a lot of police, because people are largely taking care of things themselves. And it's really, really sweet, man, in that sense. Hey, Wilhelm, you're from Sweden, right? Can you reach out? Lori and I, just today, we had this idea that we really need to get to Sweden and Finland. And we need to get to Scandinavia. And so we're thinking about a trip. So can you reach out to me actually at the email? So yeah, really feel like I need to engage in some of to have a discovery trip in Scandinavia. So we have to go to the Netherlands and see some colleagues of ours in Belgium. Maybe Arnica, we will get to down to see you. But in any case, man, that would be, you can send it to my just Sam at social19.org. It's fine. I'll get it. And yeah, no, we feel like we need to just have we're not going to have a lot of opportunity to travel everywhere, but it would be in the winter time probably. So, but it really would be nice. I just feel like I gotta have it. Yeah, you can go to staff at social19.org. That's fine. And yeah, I've got to go visit Mr. Rashidi, man. That's the thing. I got to get, yeah, Uma. I need and Mr. Rashidi. I need Uma to I need to taste some Afghan food. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I think it's really unfortunate that we, yeah, days will be short and dreary. Yeah, it'll be around Christmas, so we can go see the Christmas festival. They'll be short and dreary, but whatever. That's okay. It's dreary here. It doesn't really matter. It's dreary everywhere. Yeah. I think, I don't know, man. I don't know, like what. I'm so just kind of unsettled at some level in so many ways about some of this. It seems like we could resolve so many problems, but we get stuck battling each other instead of just really looking. Here, let me. Oh, I can't do this, but unfortunately, we can do it at a different time. But I was reading this essay by this author. It was in the New York Times, and the title was, I can put this in here. A lot of you won't be able to read it because, oh no, I can't. That's too big. I tried to put this in the New York. I tried to put the title of this in, but I can't. Anyway, the title here, I can just put the title in the chat. Yeah, I saw that. TM, I saw that Charlie Kirk was shot. Charlie Kirk has put Social 19 in the bullseye of his whatever, his criticism. So it's really in a way that I never make these videos about me and my class, and in a way that I never get a chance to respond. So but I feel really unsettled about the fact that he is that happened, man. It's very disturbing at so many levels that I can hear. Yeah. Anyway, so the idea is this. Eric, you're making a late appearance, but you are here. This is here, Eric. This would be something for you. So I saw this in the New York Times back in June. Actually, autism rates have increased 60-fold. I played a role in that, and what this guy says is, look, why is autism increasing? So people have this idea that it's. I mean, people make the arguments that it's vaccines and it's this and it's that. It's the drinking water and God knows what it is. And basically, this guy has been part of writing since the early 80s the DSM manuals, and this is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So we're now up to, I think, the DSM-4. Maybe we're in the DSM-5. Nah, DSM-4, I think. Anyway, and what this guy does is say, so we have this idea, autism is increasing, okay? So like, all right, so, there must be a cause of this, right? Because there's an incredible increase in autism. He's saying that it's increased roughly 60-fold in instances of autism have increased roughly 60-fold in the past 30 years, right? And so what's responsible for this, right? So, Robert F. Kennedy, our Secretary of Health and Human Services, is talking about this, right? And so like, okay, what's the problem? And what do we need to do? And so he's looking at things. Of course, he thinks it's the vaccines. So this guy, his name's Alan Francis, he says, look, I was chair of the task force charged with creating the 4th edition of the DSM. And this is, the Bible of psychiatry, right? It's a big, thick book, and it's got every diagnosis that you could possibly find in this. And he says in the 3rd edition of the DSM, which was published in 1980, autism was tightly defined and considered extremely rare. So criteria for the diagnosis of it required that you identify at early onset, like before age 3. It has to be a severe cognitive, interpersonal, emotional, or behavioral problems. Okay, so think about that. Before age 3, it's got to be really severe. But his task force approved the inclusion of a new diagnosis, which was Asperger's syndrome, which is much more mild in severity than classic autism and much more common. So they did that. That's like here with our medical marijuana in the state of Pennsylvania. Everything was floating along fine, and then suddenly the people in charge of the diagnoses decided, you know what, they were going to include anxiety disorder. So if you had an anxiety disorder, you could go get your medical marijuana card. Well, within about a month, all of the medical marijuana dispensaries were emptied out. They had no flower in them at all because everybody and their grandmother had anxiety, and it was really easy. Just go to your doctor and be like, hey, I have anxiety. So like, okay, here's your prescription. Go get your medical marijuana card. So, it's just like that. Suddenly like, oh my God, look at this. So anyway, what this guy is saying is they were responding to child psychiatrists and pediatricians, these concerned for children who didn't meet this really extremely stringent criteria for classic autism, but had similar symptoms in milder form that could benefit from services. But they were also, this was called now autism, right? So they looked at a lot of careful studies, and these are a lot of, thoughtful people. Their task force predicted that the addition of Asperger's syndrome would modestly increase the rate of children given an autism-related diagnosis. Instead, the rate increased more than 16-fold to 1 in 150 to 1 in 150 from an estimated 1 in 2,500 over the span of a decade. So 1 in 2,500 children had autism-related disorder, and in 10 years later, it's 1 in 150. So, and it's been continuing to climb. And today, in the United States, it's 1 in every 31 children, simply because they're changing their criteria for who does and does not have autism. So it's like, okay, wait, hang on a second. Now let's go back to this. This is just using our minds here, right? What's the cause of increasing numbers of children being diagnosed with autism-related disorders? If you don't take into account what this guy is saying, look, we changed the criteria for what autism is. But instead you start thinking, oh, more kids have autism. It must be a cause in the environment. It's the drinking water, it's milk, it's raw milk, it's vaccines, it's this, it's that. It's like, then we're missing it. It's too many people eating McDonald's hamburgers or soda or diet soda. It's all the artificial sweeteners in diet soda and one thing after another. Now we're down to about 1 in 31, and we just keep sort of changing the criteria over time, will more kids have autism? Now, do more kids have autism today than in the past? The exact same levels of autism? I assume so. I mean, just me I'm a sociologist. I don't study the human body or the brain, but I can imagine that, yeah, more kids today have it. I don't know what that means, though. Like, honest to God, I don't know what it means. But I do know that when I'm a kid, I never saw anybody with autism. And I think, wait, hang on a second. Actually, I had that one friend whose brother had something, probably autism. And I remember another friend whose sister had something and never left the house. And that might have been autism. There are all sorts of things that we could look at. But when we read our Secretary of Health, who says, yeah, it's like vaccines, it's like it should make us want to stop and say, wait, hang on a minute. Let's think about what this is. And this guy is telling us, actually, I was part of that. And we really changed the criteria, and it had a radical impact on things. So, wow, that's where we're at. And Trump says Charlie Kirk died. Oh, fuck. Yeah. All right. This is really this is really unsettling, man. Yeah. Well, this is really, yeah, this is really quite unsettling, man. How about that? Yeah, he is killed at the New York Times. Ah, fuck. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is this, as we're thinking about, as we're having these kinds of conversations, as we're having them, and like as I'm like doing my best to not provoke extremist thinking in any way, shape, or form, and I'm really trying to be as thoughtful as possible and cover as many possible issues as I can, and in doing so, presumably trying to appeal to people from all over the political spectrum, because I'm just trying to get to truth, and I'm trying to bring as many things into the analysis as I possibly can. Like, for example, with autism, it's like, look, Kennedy is saying, like, we got to get rid of all these chemicals in our food, like that come in the sweeteners and stuff. This can't be. It can't be good. I can't say that it. No, I have no idea. It's like, oh, it causes autism. I don't know, but it's like, it can't be a good thing. Like, it just cannot. You can't take in chemicals like this. It's like, but maybe why not? It can't be a good thing. But is it a bad thing? It just feels like enough of it is going to be a problem. So anyway, I'm trying to bring everything in from so many perspectives, and like, that nothing. Yeah, that I don't rule anything out, but some things you got to just bring them back into the fold. So, and yet I don't know, people don't still even want to attack me. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, how is that? What kind of world are we in? So here's this guy, Charlie Kirk. I mean, he kind of made a living being a provocateur. I'm a teacher. He's a provocateur. But he's also doing these things, change my mind, right? Which is, in a way, being a teacher, right? I mean, it's a kind of pushing it too extreme, but it's like, change my mind, man. Like if I could do that, I could just sit in front of my class at that table and be like, all right, here, you come up here. Here's what I think. Now you change my mind. But I'm not going to do that because my students, they don't think like, a few of them could engage, but the vast majority couldn't engage. It's not what they do. It's not where the vast majority of students are. And what students, I think, need is somebody like me who can take lots of different positions and really confuse them tremendously, man. And so it feels to me like students need to be confused. They don't need to think that they've landed on a right answer, because when you're 20 years old, you don't have right answers. What you need is more confusion. And Michael, listen, it's been 2 hours. I mean, I haven't had a drink of water in like an hour. Tomorrow, class is about 9/11. Don't know where we're going to go with 9/11. But I'm really curious. I mean, it came from the other day. I asked Lori, it's like, hey, next week's 9/11. Maybe she asked me, and she said, Thursday's the anniversary of 9/11. Like, what do students think about that? And I said, yeah, I don't really know. I wonder what they think about it. And I went, what do they think about that? And I mean, this was a day that transformed so many things. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a class. We're going to have that conversation with people, not just from the US, but from other countries, and just see what it is. Yeah, I had class on 9/11. It was a Tuesday, and I had class that day at 1 o'clock, actually, in the afternoon. And it was a really intense class. This was before everybody had a cell phone. So, we didn't cancel class. We showed up. I had a couple people in class whose parents worked, one who worked in one of the Trade Center towers. So they were waiting. We had phones, but people had flip phones, so we really didn't. I mean, not everybody. Maybe like a third of the class had flip phones. So this kid, he was waiting for a phone call. And then we had somebody else whose uncle or somebody worked in one of the buildings nearby. And the two of them didn't know. Anyway, the room was packed. It was about 240 seats in that room. And it was a really intense class. It was really intense. And yeah, wow. And then that night, we called for my class, actually, a bunch of students in my class called for a gathering at the Peace Garden we have here at Penn State. Years ago, we had an active shooter, probably 20 years ago. 25. It was like 5 years before 9/11. So yeah, damn, man, somewhere in that, about 96 or 97, we had an active shooter actually who killed somebody. And at the spot where they killed somebody, it was this young woman who was mentally ill, by the way. She had been in the military and got released from the military, and she was mentally ill. And she walked on the campus with a rifle and hid in the bushes and shot 2 people. One hit that person in their backpack, and the bullet stuck to their books. But the other person she killed was a young woman who was walking to class. Crazy, right? And anyway, so we have this Peace Garden in this spot. So on 9, my class kind of called for a gathering in the Peace Garden. So different people in the class kind of went out and said, hey, Social 19, Sam Richards and Social 19, our class, we're going to have a gathering here if anybody wants to come. And lots of people came. There was nothing. I mean, we didn't have emails. We didn't have that you could get the word out. So my class got the word out, and we had a gathering, and it was really candlelight gathering in this Peace Garden. So it was cool. We have maybe several hundred people came, which is really saying something. So yeah, really intense, man. How do I feel about politicians that Pearl Harbor, 9/11, and January 6th are comparable enough to talk about in one sentence? Yeah, I don't think that's the case at all, man. They are not comparable to talk about in one sentence. Though I was saying earlier, it's kind of interesting being born in 1960, so that's 15 years, or almost 17. It was 19 years after Pearl Harbor. I mean, think of that. How many years? And so, I mean, I think not Pearl Harbor. I was thinking about the Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and I was thinking about how 15 years, man, and that is it wasn't very long. So when I was 10 years old was when I first kind of came in, probably about 10 was when I came into consciousness about the atomic bombs. And so I was 25 at that. I mean, it was 25 years earlier. And I think, wow, we're almost there with 9/11. It's like, man. So anyway, yeah. Vibe tornado gameplay. Yeah. What's happening in Ecuador or parts of Ecuador, right? Because I don't know if you know, I used to live in Cuenca. And so Cuenca is not being impacted in the same way in Ecuador as, Guayaquil and Esmeraldas and, the cities on the coast. Anyway, Dan, Edgerlin, glad you're able to have discussions with your students and debates with your students. Seems like today debate and discussion cannot be had. Yeah, I don't have debates with my students though, really. It's just discussions, just conversations. First off, I don't like debates. I don't benefit from debates, and nor do I think students. No, and Paul, Social 19, no discussed successor has been named. And honestly, I don't think anybody would want to do my class. Not anybody here. Maybe somebody would. I certainly don't. There are no professors in the department who would want to do it. And they certainly would not want to do it on live on camera in the way that I do. Like, people don't want to do that. And like the other day, just a couple days ago, this professor, this instructor at Texas A&M who has having a conversation about gender and how many genders there are. And, and some student, somebody surreptitiously recorded it, and it just led to the downfall. They fired the instructor. They removed the department chair. They removed the dean. Like, all these things happen. And I think, man, it scares me. Not to scare me, but because whatever. If I get fired, I get fired. But there's so many things that people complain about that I say that's like, come on, man. It just seems, but I don't know, maybe that instructor, I don't know exactly what she said, and if maybe she wasn't really very open to whatever the student was saying. I don't know. But it's kind of pretty damn unsettling. I will say that. Okay, listen. Yeah, Quito's being hit constantly. Yeah, Noboa's doing nothing. Yeah. I'm not following in Quito. I only really am following the coast, and I'm following Cuenca because I lived in Cuenca and I have family members in Cuenca. So, yeah. Okay, listen, I really probably should go though, man. It's been 2 hours and 10 minutes now. So I feel like I gotta get a break. So tomorrow's 9/11. We'll see what happens. I don't know I have the idea that students don't think about it a lot. And that's really kind of the crux of the question, right? Like, wait, what are you not thinking about, like, what do you think happened? What's your explanation for it? I mean, there are all these things that for me, it's like, it's data gathering. And I'm going to invite at least one Saudi student into the conversation. Somebody from the Middle East, but probably a Saudi student. I have a couple Saudis who have applied to volunteer, so I'll invite them into it. So we'll see, like what people have to say. Yeah. Vibe Tornado gameplay. Yeah. Born in Quito. Yeah. Man, it's unsettling, man. That's things. All right. Listen, everybody, thanks. I really am gonna head out, and thanks, and be well. I'll see if I can't figure out how to stop this stream. I do appreciate. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of it, and thanks for the conversation. I really do appreciate it. And by the way, again, if Sweden or like Finland, anything, man. Yeah, I think I might have to make a trip up there. Okay, thanks everyone. Be well.